The text appeared on my phone at 2:17 a.m., illuminating the darkness of my bedroom where my 6-month-old daughter Lily finally slept peacefully after a difficult night of teething pain. Morgan, I know it's been a while. We need to talk. It's important. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. 3 simple sentences from a number I still knew, by heart, though I'd deleted the contact 8 months ago when Tyler had walked out of our apartment and our lives. 8 months ago, when I was 7 months pregnant, my abdomen swollen with the daughter he'd never met. I stared at the message until my screen went dark, then pressed the power button to light it up again. After nearly a year of silence, Tyler wanted to talk. I set the phone face down on my nightstand without responding and tried to go back to sleep. But rest wouldn't come, my mind racing with questions I'd long since stopped asking myself. Why did you leave? Where did you go? How could you abandon your own child? When Lily's cries pulled me from a fitful sleep 3 hours later, I had almost convinced myself I'd dreamed the message. But there it was, still unanswered, when I checked my phone after settling her for a morning feeding, and below it, a new one, sent just minutes ago. I know I don't deserve your time, but I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. Please. I studied my daughter's face as she nursed, her tiny fingers resting against my skin, her eyes, Tyler's eyes, gazing up at me. The anger I'd nursed alongside her these past months rose up, familiar and hot. Your daddy thinks something is important, I whispered to her. Imagine that. When Lily finished feeding and drifted back to sleep, I finally responded, What do you want, Tyler? His reply came instantly, as if he'd been waiting with his phone in hand. Can we meet? In person? Coffee at Marlowe's, 1 p.m.? Marlowe's. Our old Saturday morning ritual, back when we were a wee. Back before Tyler decided that fatherhood wasn't an adventure he was ready to embark on, leaving nothing but a hastily written note and emptied dresser drawers. Why? I typed. I need to explain some things, and ask for your help. My bitter laugh disturbed Lily, who stirred in her bassinet. Help. Of course that's what he wanted. Not to meet his daughter or apologize for vanishing when I needed him most, but to ask for help. I'll be there, I finally replied, but I'm bringing Lily. Time you met your daughter. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, okay. I spent the morning in a state of agitated preparation, not for Tyler, but for Lily's first public outing in weeks. The pediatrician had advised limiting her exposure during cold and flu season, especially with the recent virus that had been circulating. But I wasn't meeting Tyler without her. If he wanted to talk to me, he would have to face the responsibility he'd abandoned. At 12:45, I parked outside Marlowe's, Lily securely fastened in her carrier. I checked my makeup in the rearview mirror, a small vanity I immediately hated myself for, and then gathered our things. No matter what Tyler wanted, I would be calm, composed, and completely in control. He was already there, seated at a corner table with 2 coffees. He stood when he saw me, his expression cycling rapidly through surprise, guilt, and something that looked almost like longing as his gaze fixed on the carrier. Morgan, he said, his voice catching slightly. And, is that your daughter? I finished for him, setting the carrier on the chair beside me, angled so he could see her sleeping face. Lily Grace. She's 6 months old today, actually. Tyler stared at her, transfixed. He looked thinner than I remembered, his usually clean-shaven face covered in a patchy beard, dark circles shadowing his eyes. The polished young financial analyst who'd left our apartment had been replaced by someone more weathered, more worn. She's beautiful, he whispered. Yes, she is. No thanks to you. The words came out sharper than I'd intended, but I didn't regret them. You said you needed to explain things, So explain. Tyler dragged his gaze from Lily to me, then reached for his coffee with a slightly trembling hand. I know I don't deserve your time or attention. What I did. He broke off, swallowing hard. There's no excuse. I'm not looking for excuses, Tyler. I'm here because you said it was important. He nodded, his shoulders slumping slightly. After I left, I went to California. A college friend had a startup there. Said he could get me in on the ground floor. It seemed like an escape. From responsibility. From growing up. From everything I was afraid of. Including your own child, I added quietly. Yes, he admitted, his gaze dropping to the table. Including that. I told myself it was better this way. That you deserved someone who was ready, who wouldn't resent you or her. He glanced at Lily again. I was a coward. I said nothing, waiting for him to get to the point. This confession might have meant something 8 months ago. Now, after nights spent pacing with a colicky newborn, after navigating medical bills and childcare and a return to work all on my own, his words felt hollow. The startup failed, he continued, spectacularly. We burned through our initial funding in 6 months and then understanding dawned. You need money. He flinched at the bluntness but nodded. I've got creditors calling. I put everything into this venture, Morgan. Everything. And now you want me to bail you out, I said, my voice flat. That's why you contacted me after months of silence. Not to meet your daughter, not to apologize properly, but to ask for a loan. It's not just how much, I interrupted. Tyler hesitated, then said, 30,000. I nearly choked on my coffee. 30. Are you serious? I'm a single mother working as a graphic designer, Tyler. Where exactly do you think I'd get that kind of money? Your parents? He suggested weakly. Or that inheritance from your grandfather. I know you were saving it, and I wouldn't ask if I weren't desperate. The inheritance. Of course he'd remembered that. The $25,000 my grandfather had left me that I'd been saving for a home down payment. Money that was now earmarked for Lily's future. Lily stirred in her carrier, making the small snuffling, sounds that usually preceded waking. I automatically reached to rock her gently. Let me get this straight, I said, keeping my voice controlled despite the anger building in my chest. You walk out on your pregnant wife without a word, disappear completely, contribute nothing to your child's existence for 8 months, and then reappear asking for my savings? Put that way, even Tyler had to recognize the audacity of his request. He ran a hand through his unkempt hair. I know how it sounds. But if I could just get back on my feet, I could start making it up to you both. I could pay child support. Be in Lily's life. So your relationship with your daughter comes with a price tag? $30,000 for the privilege of being her father? That's not fair, Morgan. Fair? I laughed, loudly enough that a couple at a nearby table glanced over. You want to talk to me about what's fair? Lily's eyes blinked open at my raised voice, her little face scrunching in confusion at the unfamiliar surroundings. Before I could reach for her, Tyler leaned forward, his expression softening as he took in his daughter's face. She has my eyes, he said wonderingly. Yes, I agreed, my voice tight. Among the very few things you've given her. I lifted Lily from her carrier, cradling her against my shoulder as she fully awakened. Her curious gaze fixed on Tyler, this stranger whose DNA she carried. Could I hold her? Tyler asked hesitantly. The request caught me off guard. I'd expected him to stay focused on the money, not show interest in the child he'd abandoned. Part of me wanted to refuse, to deny him even this small connection. But another part, the part that had once loved this man enough to create a life, with him, relented. Wash your hands first, I said, nodding toward the restroom. When he returned, I carefully transferred Lily to his inexperienced arms, correcting his hold to support her head properly. He stared down at her with naked wonder, and Lily gazed back, her expression serious as she studied this new face. "Hello, Lily," he whispered. "I'm your dad." The word sent a jolt through me. Dad. A title he'd done nothing to earn. Biological father, I corrected. Being a dad takes more than DNA and one coffee shop meeting. Hurt flashed across his face, but he nodded. "You're right." Lily began to fuss, and I reached for her automatically. Tyler transferred her back to me with obvious reluctance. "She needs to be changed," I said, reaching for the diaper bag. "And probably another feeding soon. Would it be okay if I came back to the apartment? Just to talk more, to see where you both live now?" The apartment. Our apartment once. Now transformed into a single mother's domain, with baby gear occupying every available surface and my home office crammed into a corner of the living room. "No," I said firmly. "That's not happening, Tyler. This meeting wasn't about reconnecting or rebuilding bridges. You wanted to ask for money, and you've done that. And your answer?" I studied him across the table. This man I'd once built dreams with, now reduced to asking for a handout from the woman he'd abandoned. There was a time I would have given him anything. That time had long passed. My answer is no. That money is for Lily's future, not to bail you out of a mess you created. He looked down at his coffee. "I understand. Do you? Because I don't think you do." I secured Lily against me as I gathered our things. "You know what the past 8 months have been like for me? Birthing our child alone. Midnight feedings alone. Doctor's appointments, daycare interviews, working with a baby on my lap, all alone. The money isn't the point, Tyler. It's that you weren't here when it mattered, and now you're only here because you need something." "That's not entirely true," he said quietly. "I've thought about you both every day. I just didn't know how to come back after what I did." "And you still don't," I replied, "because coming back means taking responsibility, not asking for a bailout." I stood, slinging the diaper bag over my shoulder. "If you want to be part of Lily's life, get yourself together first. Get a job, get stable, and then we can discuss visitation and child support. But don't contact me again about money." As I turned to leave, Tyler caught my wrist gently. "Morgan, wait. There's something else you should know." Something in his tone made me pause. "What?" "I'm not just in financial trouble. I'm in actual trouble." He lowered his voice. "The startup wasn't entirely legitimate. The SEC is investigating. I could be facing charges." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. "Are you serious? You were involved in something illegal?" "Not intentionally," he insisted. "I didn't know what the founders were doing until it was too late. That's why I need the money. For a lawyer." I pulled my wrist from his grasp, instinctively holding Lily closer. "So, not only did you abandon your family, but you got mixed up in something that could land you in jail? And you want me to use our daughter's future to save you from that too?" I know it sounds terrible. It is terrible, Tyler. It's beyond terrible. I backed away from the table. "Stay away from us. I mean it. When you've sorted out your legal issues and gotten your life together, we can revisit the topic of you being in Lily's life. Until then, we're done here." I walked out of Marlowe's with my head high and my daughter secure against my chest, ignoring Tyler calling my name behind me. In the car, I fastened Lily into her seat with shaking hands, then sat behind the wheel trying to process what had just happened. My phone buzzed with a text. Tyler again. "Please don't shut me out. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I want to make things right. Just think about it." I started the car without responding. The nerve of him. The absolute audacity to think that. My phone rang, the screen lighting up with a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but some instinct made me answer. "Is this Morgan Reeves?" a professional female voice asked. "Yes, this is she." "Mrs. Reeves." This is Amanda Wells with First Meridian Bank. I'm calling about some concerning activity on your joint account with Tyler Reeves. My blood ran cold. Joint account? That account was closed months ago when we separated. I'm afraid that's not what our records show, she replied. The account is very much active, and there have been some substantial withdrawals over the past 2 days. The joint checking account we'd used for household expenses. I'd transferred my portion to a new personal account after Tyler left, assuming he'd done the same, or that the account would be automatically closed with a zero balance. I hadn't given it a thought in months. How substantial? I asked, already dreading the answer. $23,000 withdrawn via cashier's check yesterday, she replied. It triggered our fraud alert system, especially since the account had been dormant for several months before that. $23,000. Almost all of what remained in my savings account after the expenses of single motherhood had depleted my emergency fund. Money I'd transferred just last week from my personal account to a new high-yield savings account, or so I thought. Somehow, I must have used the old joint account information. This was absolutely unauthorized, I said, my voice tight with fury. I need to report this as fraud immediately. As the bank representative walked me through the fraud reporting process, another text from Tyler appeared. I'm sorry. I didn't see any other way. The pieces clicked into place. Tyler hadn't reached out after 8 months of silence to ask for money. He'd reached out to distract me, to keep me occupied at Marlowe's while his cashier's check cleared. The coffee, meeting, the emotional appeals, his interest in Lily, all a calculated diversion. Mrs. Reeves? The bank representative prompted when I fell silent. Do you have any idea who might have accessed your account? Yes, I said, my voice suddenly calm as cold clarity washed over me. My soon-to-be ex-husband, Tyler Reeves, and I have texts that will prove it was deliberate. I ended the call and immediately opened my messages to capture screenshots of Tyler's texts, evidence of his state of mind and desperation for money. As I did, another message appeared. I know you hate me right now, and you should, but I was. Telling the truth about the legal trouble. This money is my only chance to stay out of jail and eventually be there for Lily. I'll pay you back every cent, I swear. I lowered the phone, looking at Lily in the rearview mirror. Her eyes, Tyler's eyes, were drifting closed as sleep reclaimed her, blissfully unaware of her father's betrayal. He's right about one thing, I whispered to her sleeping form. I do hate him right now. I started the car and pulled away from Marlowe's, my mind already mapping out my next steps, filing a police report, contacting a lawyer to expedite divorce proceedings that had languished while I focused on new motherhood, and placing freezes on all my accounts. Tyler had made a critical error in judgment. He'd assumed that the woman he'd left behind was the same one he'd married, trusting, accommodating, always willing to put his needs first. He hadn't counted on motherhood transforming me, hadn't understood that in abandoning us, he'd forced me to become stronger, more resourceful, and far less forgiving. My phone buzzed with yet another message from Tyler. Please say something. I pulled over, typed 2 words, checkmate, and then blocked his number. Whatever happened next, whether the bank could recover my money or not, whether Tyler faced legal consequences for his actions, one thing was certain. The man who had walked out on his pregnant wife, who had missed his daughter's birth and first smile, who had stolen from his own child's future, would never again underestimate the woman I had become in his absence. As I drove home with my sleeping daughter, I felt something unexpected beneath the anger and betrayal, a fierce, clarifying certainty. We would be okay, Lily and I. We had already survived the worst thing Tyler could do to us, his absence. His renewed presence in our lives, however fleeting, had only confirmed what I'd spent 8 months learning. We were stronger without him. Up. Next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.